Hey guys, you're watching Dansky, the place to be to develop your creative skills, and in this video we're going to be doing something that is long overdue. So earlier this year I asked you guys to email me your design work to foreverdansky@gmail.com with the subject feed me back, all one word, and the plan was to critique some of your design work. This year's been a crazy year so far, I haven't got around to it, but today is the day that I'm going to be reviewing the first batch of designs. I'm super excited, and if you would like to have your work critiqued in a future video, or you want to see more of these videos, let me know down below and email your work to foreverdansky@gmail.com with the subject feed me back, all one word, and I'll have a look. And if you want to see more videos like this, then fantastic, we'll do more. Now, when I asked everyone to send me their work, I forgot to ask you guys two things. One, would you like me to mention your name with the piece of work, or would you rather remain anonymous? And two, the second thing was I forgot to ask for any context, just a one-liner or something describing what the piece of work actually is, just to help me better understand it. So with that in mind, I'm looking at all of these today, completely contextless. I mean, some of them are kind of obvious, but if you do send me your work, just remember to include those two things. One, let me know if you want me to mention your name with the work. And two, just a brief one-liner about what the work actually is, who it was for, the project, all that good stuff. Just so I can understand it a little bit better when critiquing it. But anyway, enough rambling. We're gonna jump to the screen in a moment and review the first 5 designs on the list. And there we go, so I've opened up all the designs in Photoshop. You can see we have the first one on screen now. The brand, the company logo is called Janek. And I really do like this. We've got some very kind of earthy colors, browns, greens, very kind of reminiscent of nature, something natural. Of course, I don't have any context as to what it's actually for because I forgot to ask. I'm going to assume that it's something beauty related or health and beauty. And we have the silhouette of the person here. Now, if I had to critique this, I would say that the silhouette probably needs a little bit more work. So some of the features, if I just zoom in, so we've got a lot of angles here. I mean, a lot of straight lines. I mean, I know you do get some people that have a nose like this, and that's totally fine, but just maybe a few more curves in places, maybe a slight bend around the lips, just a few more curves, just so it's a little bit more natural. And the chin as well, just looking a little bit more natural. I don't think this bulge is something you normally get. It's usually the other way around, but just a little bit of work to make this a bit more reminiscent of an actual person's face. And up here as well, usually you have a little dip around where the eye socket is. And up here as well, there's this large curve. It's very sort of forehead heavy, for want of a better phrase. And I'd love to see possibly some hair coming down here, like in white. So using that negative space a little bit, because we've got this kind of flowing line here. So this is brilliant. I love this. This obviously doubles up as the hair and whatever kind of plant or flower or something this is here. So we've got that nature element combined with the beauty element as well. I'd love to see more of this style integrated in and around the forehead just to fill out some of this space, and it just so it kind of holds these two halves together a bit more. So the nature half and the human element here within this symbol. So if I zoom back out, we've got the box around the edge. I think that's cool. I think it works. I honestly don't know if it's even necessary. So if I just quickly make a really bad selection, whoa, okay. And we'll just fill this out. I honestly don't even think the box is necessary, if I'm honest. I really don't. I think this, with a bit more work, just kind of refining this to be a bit more reminiscent of a silhouette, whether it's a male or a female silhouette you're going for. Whichever one's fine, just so it looks a bit more like that. I think through here, we've got nice, consistent widths on both sides. So the little details, things like that are the kind of things that I look for a lot in design work. So it's great to see that. I think the font is good. It feels very, again, very earthy, very natural. We've got lots of curves in those, in the letter forms as well. Things like this, like, you know, it's just the shape of this even reminds me of like a baby plant. A baby plant? A young plant? What do you call a child plant? Huh. But it looks like a young plant kind of, you know, drooping over, and I don't know. There's something about that that just makes me think of nature. And so I do like that. It'd be cool to experiment with some other font types and see how it looks, maybe bring the text here up alongside the mark itself. Something else that I would probably suggest is just experiment with a few different colors. So no, we don't want select a mask, we want color range. So we've got this green here, and maybe you can see it sort of in the yellow. Let's just bring it into green a little bit more. So we've got a bit more green in that hue and a touch brighter. So just an idea to play around with it. Just for me, it feels like with a slightly lighter and more green, it just has a little bit more vitality to it. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, really, really solid logo. So hopefully that feedback is helpful. But let's move on to number 2, Byron James. So of course this is by Byron James. And I think from memory, this is a logo where he branded himself. I really do love this. It plays into my style of minimal, clean, simple design so much. So bonus points to this one already because it's my personal favorite style of logo. So we've got the A here, which is really, really, really simple and clean. And then we've got the J under here. And I love this kind of divide as well and the way they're offset. And it's nice to see that detail as well. So these nicely line up here on both edges. And then for the letters themselves, we have a nice consistent width all round. If I had to give one piece of critique, it would be to try and make the A look more like an A. If there was a way to kind of, you know, bring in the, I believe it's called the crossbar of the A or something, just so it looks a little bit more like an A, or whether there was kind of like a square or dot or something in this space here. I think that would be cool. And it'd be really cool to see a design, again, that doesn't have this line. So, I mean, I could try and do this now, actually. Let's break out the Photoshop skills. This is probably going to be terrible. Aaron, if you're watching, I'm sorry, mate. This is a very, very quick and crude job. No, that looks absolutely awful. We'll ignore that. But just, yeah, so for me, the main bit of feedback would be to make it look a little bit more like an A. But apart from that, you know, love the shapes, love the color, love the simplicity of it, and love the kind of whole slice thing going through it. And it stands out with a nice bit of contrast on a dark background as well. So, yeah, super cool. Okay, number 3. So this is awesome. We've got Hillbillies barbecue, legendary food, and I absolutely love this. It's so cool, and it's so we've got the text kind of on an angle here. I think critique-wise, it'd be nice to see the angle of this a little bit more pronounced. At the moment, it feels very, very shallow. And the only thing that I think is a slight issue with that is it doesn't feel curved enough to be deliberate. So it almost feels, if I was to glance at it, it feels like all the other text is straight down here. And then we have this one that's ever so slightly curved. And I think just pronouncing it a little bit more, maybe having it come over here and filling this space, or even just a bit more pronounced, would help that just feel a little bit more deliberate and a bit more obvious. The character up here I absolutely love. I think there's this like, a sort of like shadow shading thing here, doubling everything up. I really don't think you need that. I think if you were to take that out, I think it would improve it. At the moment, I feel like it's distracting me from what is a really great illustration, and it's got a kind of character, which I really like. We've got nice variation in width going around as well. So it's really, really interesting, and I love this little illustration. And we've got the established 2005 in there on an angle as well. I like the red. The splash of red is awesome. I'm not sure about the shape. And again, it's kind of how this kind of curve works here as well. So if you have the curve there, or you revise the curve to be more pronounced, instead of just being like a four-sided shape, does this curve along the bottom of the red shape match the lettering here and the text? At the moment, it feels a bit random, like it's a four-sided shape and it's kind of off on an angle, which I think would work totally fine on its own if I were to just hide this quickly. You see, it looks cool, but when you've got some other text and everything going on below it, the angles, the curve here, for me, that's just not working at the moment. But concept-wise, I think it's nearly there. Really, really cool. Love it. And something else you could even experiment with is just coloring in and just filling in the hair with like solid black or a different color or something as well. And maybe the beard, just give the beard color. Just an idea, but there we go. That's number 3. So number 4, we've got a website by a chap whose name I'm going to try my best to pronounce, Gaurav. He's a designer, developer, and YouTuber, which is awesome. Hello, fellow YouTuber. And I'm going to start with the logo up here. Love this. It just plays into exactly what I love about logos, the simplicity, the cleanness. So even though this is incredibly simple, I absolutely love this logo. Let's zoom back out. So we've got a nice clear header introducing the page. I love the font. It's a sans serif font. It's nice and clear, easy to read. It's got a little bit of playfulness to it with the curved edges, so a little bit of personality, which I quite like. And at the top, very easy to understand and visible links, so work, resume, YouTube, and contact. And then as we scroll down, let me just try and collapse my panel here, see if I can get a bit more of this on screen. There we go. Okay, so a little bit of a bio. I'd probably like to see a little bit more information about you, just learn a bit more, or a link to find out more information. If I was curious on working with you, I'd just like to know a bit more about who you are and your experience. And down here, we've got the 3 things that Gaurav does. So UI UX designer, front-end developer, and a YouTuber. So with the icons here, we've quite clearly got the YouTube icon, and we've got a pencil. So we've got different icons to represent the different things that Gaurav does. What I'd love to see is a little bit more consistency with the style of the icons. So for me, the YouTuber one, yep, totally makes sense. Front-end developer, you know, is kind of ties in with this very nicely. We've got a filled in icon. Even though it's a very linear style, it still is filled in. But this one over here, we've got different line widths, very thin width on the pencil, and it doesn't have like a solid fill. So I think the only one to really change or revise is probably the pencil. So just go with a similar style to these two, have it filled in with like a solid fill, and maybe separate the nib and the eraser part of the pencil just with a gap or something. Just so these 3 icons feel like if you put them alongside each other, or if you saw them like you can now on screen, they just feel like they hang together as part of a set. And the button here, I feel like it's slightly different blue. So I'd say consistency with the blue, you know, if you want to use different colors, that's totally cool. But for me, these blues are too similar. To me, it looks like a mistake. If you want to go darker blue, totally cool, but just go a little bit darker so there's a bit more of a distinction between the 2 different shades of blue, but looks cool. Also the drop shadow, I don't think you probably need that really. You know, drop shadows are a funny one because you can use them to great effect, but they can also look a bit dated. And for me, this kind of it reminds me of almost like RGB kind of blue back from like the 2000s. And then you have that drop shadow. It's kind of a sort of a style that's been a little bit done to death, to be honest, like with web design. So, and the blue actually has plenty of contrast. So the shadow doesn't really add anything. You know, there's plenty of contrast with the blue and the white background. So I'll probably just lose the shadow, to be honest. Okay, so we've got some work here. Of course, this is placeholder, I guess, because there's nothing in these boxes here. So yeah, it'd be great to see your work in there as well. We've got a lighter blue for the background. So we're kind of going with that whole blue theme, different shades of blue, which I really do like. And again, with the shadow here, so this is a good example actually. The shadows can be used with great effect. I'd probably make them a little bit softer rather than such a hard edge. Just so it's a bit more subtle, almost as if it looks like these elements here on the page are floating above the page. And that's how shadows can be used quite effectively, especially nowadays. Just have those really subtle shadows to lift certain elements off the page and just create a little bit more depth. Contact me here, so contact information and then links to social channels and email at the bottom. So yeah, I think we kind of did all the feedback going through that. But yeah, otherwise a very nice site design. And number 5. I've saved the craziest one till last. I have no idea what this is, but it's just amazing. I mean, like I've looked at how this would have been created and tried to figure it out in my mind, and it's it's pretty wild. So we've got this kind of very 80s, or it feels very 80s themed kind of like virtual reality almost, like stepping into like a virtual world kind of thing with these perspective grids on the top and bottom. We've got the clouds of the sky in the background, but these pillars here, which seem to have been cut out of the perspective grid. So I feel like this was a photo with pillars and the pillars were selected. You can see they go back into the distance here. And we've got some reflections down here as well. But they've somehow been used to mask out parts of the perspective grid, and we have a horizon line. And then there's been like an outer glow, and to me, this looks like someone signed their work. Some sort of signature. I mean, I'm not sure on the style of this. It feels like it doesn't really sit in, or it's a bit too pronounced within the composition as a whole. I'll probably make it a bit more subtle and a bit smaller. But otherwise, I am almost lost for words. Like, it's really cool, like it's super creative, and it definitely gets me thinking, how on earth did this person make this in Photoshop? But with regards to feedback, I wouldn't even know where to start. Like, it's just pure creativity at its finest. That's honestly all I can say. And there we go, that was round one of subscriber design critique. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you very much to the people who did submit work for this video. As I say, apologies that it's taken so long, but we got there, we finally got there. So if you'd like to have a chance for your work to be featured here on this channel, please do email me at foreverdansky@gmail.com with the subject feed me back, all one word. But if you have any questions or comments about what you saw in this video, or about my feedback, or you just like to have a bit of a discussion, then please do drop those down below. But as always, like this video if you enjoyed it, take care, and I'll see you next time.